In this week's Tableau Tip Tuesday, I'm going to show you how to use Lollipop charts to help you track progress. Let me start with a little bit of history. Back in January 2013, Alberto Cairo came to Facebook and did a great data visualization talk for us. One of the things he showed were these interesting lollipop charts that were tracking progress. And what these look at is by state, the percentage of obese people for each state. And the way that he designed these was you have this bar in the background that basically goes up to 100%, and you can track the lollipop and see how it's progressing. So this particular view I built into Tableau, which I'll link in the blog post. And I want to show you how to build something very similar. To start, we got to get the data. For that, I'm going to go over to the CDC, and I've got 3 different data sets I'm going to look at. The first one is obesity data. So these are adults in the US by state that are diagnosed as obese or classified as obese. The second one are those who consume fruit less than 1 time a day. And the third are those who do no leisure time activity. So we're talking the laziest of the lazy here. Okay, so to do this, I'm going to start import IO. And once I'm in import IO, I'm going to go to new and then classic extractor, which takes me to this welcome screen. So what I want to do is I want to grab my first URL, copy that, paste it into import. And then once the page loads in here, I'm going to click on this on there option. Okay, so click on that and then detect optimal settings. And import is going to go ahead and do a little bit of scanning here. Is the data I want to extract still in the browser? Yes, it is. I'm going to click on the table option here. And then what I need to do is I need to scroll down through the screen until I get to the section that's, I want to go ahead and click on this section and make it green. Extract table. And you'll see now I have what I need. I can go ahead in here and rename some things. So I'm going to go ahead and rename this to state. And rename this one to, I'll just call it, let's see, obesity rate. Something like that. The rest of these columns I don't really care about, so I'm just going to leave those as they are. And then I'm just going to click on I got what I need. Okay, so all right, let's click on I got what I need. All right, so that data set is now in my examples, so I'm going to go to my second data set, which is for those that eat fruit less than once per day. I'm going to go to another new screen here and do the training again. Okay, I am there. Detect optimal settings. Yes, it's still in the browser. Choose my table. And what it's going to do is it's going to need to come down here and make sure that I highlight the table in green. So scroll down, click on that, extract table. And I like how it goes ahead and skips that top row, which is nice, even though it highlighted it. And then I want to rename these again. So I'm going to call that one state. And this one I'm going to call fruit consumption. Something like that. And then I've got what I need. Okay, great. We're done there. And then we need to go to the third one, which is going to be our physical activity. So again, I'm going to just go ahead here, paste in that URL. Once the page loads, I'm going to click on there. Detect optimal settings. Yes, it's still in the browser. Single table. And scroll down here again, make it green, extract table. All right, and now I'm going to rename these again, state, and this time we're going to call this if I could spell properly, physical activity. Okay, I've got what I need. I've got what I need. All right, and now I'm done. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and upload this to import.io. I need to give my extractor a name, so I'll call this physical activity by state. Hit OK. All right, and that should upload. And then I'm going to go back to my second one, and I'm going to call this one my fruit consumption by state. Hit OK. And then go to my first one and call this one obesity rate by state. Hit OK. All right, great. So now what I want to do is if I go over here and I refresh my data sets in import, I should see 3 new data sets show up here on the left-hand side. All right, great. You see them there? Okay, so now when I'm in Tableau, what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and go here to a new sheet, and I'm going to connect to a data source, and I'm going to go to the web data connector. And our friends over at oops, sorry, this screen shouldn't have opened up like that. There we go. Our friends at Interworks, Robert Rouse in particular, built this great web data connector for to bring import.io data directly into Tableau. So what I need to do is just go down here and highlight this URL, and it kind of walks me through the rest. So I'm going to paste that in there, hit enter. And then what I want to do is I want to use a saved import IO data source. Okay, so now I need to go back over to import, go to my obesity rate data, choose export on the right hand side here, this simple API integration, highlight this text, paste it in here, extract the data. Oop, it thinks I have an invalid, oh there we go, I had a space at the end. Okay, and what you'll see is I will now have a new data set. It's going to run an extract. And we've got one obesity rate by state. Excellent. Okay, so let's repeat this for the other 2 data sets. First one is fruit consumption. Simple API integration. Copy the URL. And let's do add another data source. So web data connector. Paste it in. Oops, didn't want to do that. I want to go I'll just click on that there, paste it in, hit extract, and we will have our second data source extracted into Tableau. Okay, so now we've got fruit consumption. And then thirdly, we want to, so let's close this one, go to our physical activity, simple API integration, copy the link, add another data source, web data connector, and you'll see it's in my recently saved, so I can just click on that, paste it in, extract. Okay, great. So now we've got all 3 data sets in here. So let's start with the obesity rate by state. So the first thing I'm going to do is it looks like I probably can go ahead and hide these columns, so I'm going to hide those. And it looks like the only measure I care about is the obesity rate. So there we go. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is just look at this by state, just a simple list. What does my obesity rate look like by state? And I can sort that if I want, something like that. Let's undo the sort and just leave it alphabetical for now. So the trick to building the chart that we were looking at in, I don't have it there anymore, the chart that I was looking at in that Alberto Cairo showed us is to go ahead and create a calculated field, and I'm just going to call it 100. All right, hit OK. And what I want to do is I basically want to create a dual axis chart. So I'm going to throw this one up there. And then I want I want this to be on the same axis. There we go. Okay. First thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and update the analysis menu and turn stacking off. And now it looks like one's piled on top of the other. That's okay. We'll just rearrange them a little bit. And let's go ahead and make sure the mark type is bar and set the size to really small. Okay, nice and thin like that. And I'm going to change my default colors. So I'm going to go to the 20 palette. Let's set the 100, the background one to a gray, and maybe we'll set the obesity rate to blue. Okay, so great, we've got that. And now to make them the lollipops, I just drag obesity rate onto the secondary axis. I'm going to right click on it and synchronize. Okay, so then I want to go to this one. I want to click on this second green pill and change it from a bar to a circle. And then I need to adjust the size again and make it so you can actually see the circle. Oh, that's way too big. Okay, let's maybe just put it in here at the next hash. Okay, so now you can see how these obesity rates are tracking towards the 100% mark. So what I like to do here is I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the axis, and I'm just going to fix it to 1 to 100. And then I'm going to set maybe my tick marks maybe every 25 units, something like that. Okay, so now we have this nice chart, and I'm going to do a bit more formatting here, because I like to do all my formatting once. Let's go ahead and format, and let's choose our favorite font. There was one I just started using that I liked called Tamil Sangam. I guess that's how you pronounce it. And maybe let's leave it at 8 point. I like to choose bold and then unbold everything, and then I like to apply the same to my tooltip. Oops, didn't mean to put the little slash in there. Okay, great. So now when we mouse over, we can see the obesity rate, but that doesn't look quite right because the obesity rate actually should be in percentages. So let's go ahead and change the default number format for this. Make it, it's still a number, but we want to make it maybe 1 decimal, and then we're just going to suffix it with a 0. Okay, so there we go. So now you can see our tooltips look nice there. All right, so what I want to do is go ahead and let's go ahead and hide the axis for the top there. All right, so we're pretty darn close here. All right, maybe scoot that down a little bit. And then lastly, let's go ahead and do a little bit of cleanup. Where's my format menu here? I'm going to get rid of the row dividers and get rid of the column dividers. And then if I go back, maybe I'll go ahead and stick. No, let's leave it like that. That's good enough. Or we could put grid lines here. Maybe we do like dashed grid lines. Nope, that's not quite what I'm looking for. So let's undo that. I just want them for the columns. Nice thin. Okay, so you see they're at 50, 75, 100. Very good. Okay, so this is our obesity rate. Let's go ahead and do a new sheet, and we'll do the same thing for fruit consumption. So again, I'm going to hide all of these fields that I don't need. I only like to keep fields in the view that I actually use. Put state in the rows, fruit consumption in the columns, create my calculated field for 100, change my fruit consumption default properties to a custom number with a % at the end. Okay, let's see. So then we want to go ahead and stick the 100 on here as well. Move measure names to the color, make it bars, turn off stacking. Okay, we're almost there. We need to change the order of these, and let's make the the 100 bar. Let's go ahead and make this one. And then let's, well, why don't we leave fruit as orange? Kind of the color orange sort of reminds me of fruit. And I need to go ahead and now put fruit consumption on the secondary axis and synchronize. Okay, so we're getting pretty close here. I need to double click on this axis, set it from 0 to 100, maybe tick marks every 25 units, hit OK. All right, oops, I meant to also get rid of the title. All right, so now I need to do some formatting on my marks. So my bars, I need those to be small. And then, oh, that wasn't quite right. That's not what I wanted to do. Oh, yeah, that's right. And then I want to go to my second one and change it from bar to a circle. Okay, and let's make sure that's snapped in. Okay, that looks like it's in the right spot. Hide this axis. And then if all goes well, I can right-click on this obesity sheet and choose copy formatting, and then go over here and do paste formatting. And hopefully everything carries over nice and neat, which it looks like it did. Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and hide the field label. I meant to do that in this first sheet as well. Okay, excellent. So let's call this one, this is going to be fruit consumption. And thirdly, we could create another one for the physical activity. But you know what? I forgot that we have data blending. So why don't we do that? let's go ahead and maybe we should, we could see if we could add the physical activity on here. So first I'm going to hide these fields. Oops, didn't mean to choose that one. And hide these. Format my physical activity. And do it to, or not percentages, sorry, number with a percent at the end. Okay, and maybe what if we put physical activity up here? What do we get? Okay, so we get something like that. Okay, so we want to also create a, so if we create a, we should be able to reuse our calculated field here. Put that on the axis. Okay. Doesn't look like Tableau is going to let me do that. Let's try that again. Let's put that on the axis. Okay, so it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to use blending here after all. So let's just go ahead and create a third sheet for fruit consumption. Oops, not fruit consumption. This one is going to be physical activity. Okay, same steps again. This time we're going to put state on the rows, physical activity on the columns, create our calculated field for 100, put that on the same axis, move measure names to color, set it to bars. On analysis, turn stack marks off, move physical activity above the 100. Okay, so then from here, again, we want to go to, let's pick a color for our physical activity. So first we'll set the 100 to gray to be consistent. And then maybe for the physical activity, let's go ahead and use, let's use green for this one. That sounds like a good color choice. And then put physical activity on my secondary axis, synchronize it, and hide it. So let's hide that header. Go down here to this axis, set it from 0 to 100. And what you'll notice is I'm not doing the steps in the same exact order necessarily. I'm just trying to remember what to do. Set my tick marks to every 50. Maybe shrink the axis down a little bit. Grab the edge of it here, hopefully. Come on. All right, it's not quite letting me grab the edge for some reason. Okay, so then what I want to do is I want to copy the formatting, paste the formatting, and hide my field labels. On my measure values, I want to go ahead and make these small. And then on my physical activity, I want to change it to a circle. Okay, so now we've got basically the same exact view in all three sheets. Okay, nice and neat. So we've got all three here. And what we can do then is we probably should just lay these out next to each other. Now, one of the things you'll notice is we do have a few states in here that do not line up. So, or that are not really states. So District of Columbia, that's a district, but man, we'll leave that one in there. But we do have something like the national average, which we could get rid of. And then let's go ahead and let's see. That looks like the only one we need to get rid of. All right, so let's get rid of that. And then same thing here. Let's go ahead and get rid of the national. Where is that there? National. And then lastly, let's go ahead and put the filter on, same filter on obesity rate. So national. Okay, so excellent. Now what we could do is, if I go back over to my data, you'll see that my national average is 26.3 for, I'm sorry, let's go to obesity here. Let's say, so our national average is 28.3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go to my analytics pane and add a constant reference line across the table. And I'm going to put it at 28.3. Okay. And then for some reason I've got two of them here. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this one. And then I will go ahead and edit this one. Oops. So let's edit reference line. And what I'm going to do is instead of the label, I'm going to put a custom, and I'm going to call it national average, and then add in the value. Okay, and we can leave that as a black line. I think that's okay. And that looks like all we need to do there. So let's hit OK. And the problem though is that my national average is written all the way at the bottom. So let's format that one more time. Let's edit our reference line, And instead of having the label there, oh, I'm in the wrong spot here. So let's format the line, and the alignment, let's put it at the top. Okay, so now you see my national average is up there. But again, is that taking up too much room? Perhaps it is. So lastly, you can see this is sort of how I iterate through Tableau. I'm going to go ahead and turn the label off. And just, we could put a footnote in there or something for the national average. So for obesity, it was 28.3. For the fruit consumption, it's 38.5. So let's go ahead and add a constant line of 38.5. Okay, so again, for some reason, Tableau added a second line for me. I'm not sure why. And let's go ahead and go to this second one. Let's edit it. And we're going to do no label, and let's make it black. Okay. And then the third one for the leisure time is 26.3. So let's add another reference line for 26.3. All right, and let's remove this one. Come on, I need to be able to select it first. Okay, let's remove that one. And then let's go to this one, edit it once again, no value, make it black, and hit OK. All right, so now we've got all of these the same way. I'm going to go ahead and shrink this down a little bit to make them consistent. All right, so this one, come on, there we go. And then lastly, this one looks like maybe it should come down ever so slightly. Is that right? Yep, looks like maybe it should come down just a hair so that they're all nice and neat together. Okay, so that looks good. So now we've got 3. And then what you might want to do is you might want to go ahead and throw them all on the dashboard. So let's put obesity, and then let's put maybe fruit consumption next to that, and physical activity next to that. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all the colors because I don't care about those. And it looks like they're all lined up nice and neat, so that's pretty cool. I probably don't need to repeat the states in each one, but if I don't, I could have a slight problem with sorting. So maybe we'll deal with that later. I'm going to go ahead and show the title, and then analysis or dashboard format. And I'll do a bit of the cleanup after this, after I finish writing this post on the dashboard. But we could go ahead and give it a name, and we could say, how obese are Americans? Does fruit consumption and physical activity relate? Something like that. That's probably too long of a title, but you get the idea. All right, so the trick is going to be how to make these all synchronize, and I will I'll clean all this up so you can download it later. All right, so the last thing I wanted to do was show you a more practical example of this. So again, hopefully you can see how these are pretty darn useful for tracking for tracking things up to 100%. So you can see, easily which ones are above the national average, and then how far they are toward 100%. Obviously, those that are over the national average are not good. Okay, so lastly, a real practical example of this would be to maybe use the coffee chain data set here. And perhaps we want to look at our product. We want to look at it by product line. Okay, that's not quite let's look at product actually instead of product line. Okay, so we've got something like that. And a classic thing to do here, first I'm going to go ahead and create my calculated field again. So I've got a calculated field for 100. I'm going to go ahead and stick in the columns. And I want this to be a average. Okay, all right, nice. So now what I want to do is, how close am I to 100% of my budget? So I'm going to create a calculated field and say percent to budget. And it's simply going to be the sum of sales divided by the sum of my budget. budget sales. Something like that. Hit OK. And what I want to do is I want to say if that is bigger than 1, else just give me the value. Basically, I don't want it to ever go past 100% for just for visual purposes. So I'm going to hit OK here. And so now what I want to do is actually, in this case, this should actually be 1 and not 100 because we need it to be in percentages. So I'm going to format both of these, number format, make them both percentages to 1 decimal. Okay, so now I've got this percent to budget, and I'm going to throw that on the same axis, move measure names to colors, make them bars, and then go ahead and unstack them. So analysis, stack marks off. Okay, so then I want to move my, I want this percent to budget to be there. And it looks like, so let's go ahead and put percent to budget on the secondary axis and synchronize. Okay, and then we go back to our measure values, move the size all the way down, percent to budget, make it a circle. Okay, so I can go ahead and uncheck the header there, and then maybe copy the formatting of one of these sheets and paste it over here so I don't have to do a whole heck of a lot of formatting. I want to go ahead and format my axis to be a percentage scale, maybe make it 0. And then I'm going to double click on my axis, set it from 0 to 1, and do my tick marks every 0.25, so every 25%. Oops, and then I also need to remove the title. All right, very good. So now what you could do is you can then break this down. So you might want to maybe do it by market size or something like that. Or maybe I'll put market size here. And you can see, you know, various cuts of the data. So maybe I could put type here and see how that looks. Does that give me something a little bit better? But you can see it's a little bit more of a practical example. This isn't the greatest data set because it looks like everything goes to 100%. So let me just look at the current year, or the latest year in the data set. So let me pick just 2013 and see if it changes. Okay, so they're all doing really well. So not the most useful visual from a visual perspective, but you can see how you know, you can definitely track where these are, how you're doing towards your budget. So hopefully you found this helpful. Sorry it's a bit of a long blog post and long video today. So if you have any other questions, feel free to leave me a comment and I will get back to you. Thanks. Have a great day.